Reveal a natural, radiant glow with Tizo Tinted Moisturizing Serum. With skin-loving ingredients like hyaluronic acid, glycerin, and ceramides, this serum delivers long-lasting hydration, leaving skin feeling nourished and refreshed. 5 luminous shades provide a radiant hint of buildable color with a glowing, sheer finish that enhances your tone and texture. Gentle, all-mineral SPF 30 and antioxidants protect against UV and environmental damage. Experience skincare that hydrates, protects, and perfects with Tizo's Tinted Moisturizing Serum. Visit tizoskin.com for details. Are you interested in providing results-driven treatment services? Join a team of like-minded individuals who share your passion and support your success. With more than 1,000 franchised locations in 49 states, Massage Envy is not only the nation's #1 provider of massage services collectively across its franchise network, but also a national leader in skincare. Start or grow your career at a Massage Envy franchised location. Visit massageenvy.com/SDcareers for full details.
Hello and welcome to ASCP Esty Talk. I'm Ella Cressman, licensed esthetician, great listener, and content contributor for Associated Skincare Professionals.
I am Maggie Stasek, licensed esthetician and ASCP's program director.
We are very lucky to have today's guest. Actually, I do have a great story about this guy, but before we get into that, let's welcome Will Parker, the founder and formulator of Parker Williams Skincare, a men's skincare line focused on simplicity and performance. This work that he does with this brand centers on creating effective, easy-to-use products and makes skincare more accessible and approachable for men. You might remember, but before launching his own brand, Will was the co-founder of Color Up, a wellness-focused skincare company where he led product development. His formulations earned over 20 industry awards, establishing him as a respected innovator in the field. Welcome, Will.
Thank you. Thank you, Maggie and Ella. It's so great to be here. Really excited.
I actually have a story about you too, Will. For those who don't know, you're a really good human. One time we were at an event, because I worked with him, just for disclosure. But we were at this event and I was really nervous about something. I was actually nervous to see someone. And Will came up to me like the voice of calm and he says, "Get in a power stance." And I was like, "Power stance?" He said, "Yep. Put your hands on your hips, put your shoulders back, and that will make you feel better." And sure enough, it did. So for all of our listeners out there, if you're ever feeling nervous or anything, this is something that has brought me through many different occasions since. So thanks, Will. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's some advice that I picked up somewhere and it's been extremely beneficial for me in those moments. So I'm very happy to be able to share that. And thank you for allowing me to share that, even in that space.
Way to pay it forward. So you didn't intend to be in skincare per se. You started in an industry that, well, let's just say is very Colorado. But how did you pivot into skincare formulation?
Oh, it's a great question. So you're very right. I moved to Denver in around 2013, and I was introduced to the emerging cannabis industry. At the time, CBD was kind of getting a lot of buzz, and it was trending within the industry. It had a very unique legal standing. And there was a lot of research coming out about its potential therapeutic benefits. And during the time, a very close friend of mine was also going to school for massage therapy. One day we were kind of sitting around and talking about kind of business ideas and, our plans for the future. And we kind of, developed this idea where we were like, CBD could really be a great ingredient to use. And at the time, we were focused on massage products. And so, personally, I was actually in college at the time for a very unrelated degree. I was going for electrical engineering. I did not see formulation in my bingo card for that year or any year leading up to then. And, I had realized that going through my coursework, I really enjoyed biology and my chemistry courses. I really, really love learning about the building blocks of everything around us and how these things interact and, why things are the way they are. And then on top of that, the biology side of it was, you extrapolate that into biological processes. So like how our body works and how different substances and different molecules can interact in our body, internally and topically, and all the physical and mental effects they can have. And so we were kind of gaining some traction with the massage product idea, and I decided to switch my degree to biology with a minor in chemistry. And it just seemed more aligned with where my professional career was going at the time and the company that I was working on. And we had this one product. It was a massage lotion, actually, that at the time none of us had any formal training in formulation or cosmetic science, and so we had very simple formulations. But we had this massage lotion that was unstable, and I kind of stepped up and took on the role to try and solve the issues with it. And I used the resources I had available at school, whether it be textbooks or research papers, and it kind of just really taught myself the foundation of formulation and cosmetic sciences. And I ended up fixing the massage lotion, but at that point I was hooked. I was very intrigued. It was a challenge. It was very exciting for me. And so I started working on a few other products and like trying to develop ideas of, how could we use CBD in other products? And I came up with the idea of trying to put it a facial serum. It seemed like a great product to add it into a very targeted delivery. And I finally worked out that formula and shared it with some estheticians and a local aesthetic school owner. And we got really great feedback. It was a very surprise one. I was like, oh, this was, like a fun project for us. And now it's turned into something that this could actually turn into a viable product. And what we really learned from that was that there was really no professional skincare out there that utilized CBD as the hero ingredient. So, we talked amongst ourselves and was like, let's take this challenge on. I think we can do this. And, that was kind of the basis of us as a company and be as a person getting into formulations, and especially on the skincare side of it. And, as you had mentioned before, that I went on to create like over 40 products with that company, the won dozens of awards in the industry, so much support from the community, and other industry leaders throughout Colorado and the rest of the country, and did that for 8 years. Very proud of everything we accomplished, but around 2023, kind of started going different ways with our life and kind of our ideas of the company, and so I ended up stepping away at that point. And personally, I kind of thought that may have been the end of my time as a formulator, and I stepped away and then went to pursue other things and moved down to Arizona, and kind of thought that was the end of that chapter. But yeah, it was very happenstance. It was very organic. We kind of saw this need, and I really enjoyed the challenge of learning formulation sciences and cosmetic sciences, and that was kind of the birthing of me as a formulator, if you would say.
And you pivoted again into another niche. What is your thought process reasoning when formulating men's skincare in particular?
So for this go around, it was a lot more personal for me. After leaving the company, I moved to Arizona. Fully had planned to start a new career, or revisit some old dreams and pursue some other things that I had talked about. Was more of some passion projects. And when I was at the company, got me a big supply of the products that I loved. And as I was here in Arizona, I started running low on those products, and so I had to go out and actually start shopping again for men's skincare. And what I realized was that, number one, being here and ignoring my skin was not an option. 120-degree days, dry heat, constant sun. I wasn't going to, my skin wouldn't take it. I was dry. It was pretty rough. And so I had to find some new skincare. So I started shopping again. And what I found was that there's a limited selection, in a lot of stores. Some of the ones that had a decent selection, they were very complex routines, and it didn't really fit naturally into my minimalist morning schedule. And a lot of the products were also basic. They were very just, moisturizing and a wash, but nothing really that kind of was targeted for the problems that I was having. And I felt like I probably wasn't the only guy out there having these issues. And then on top of that, I'm an ingredient reader. I sit and I read the label, and I'm very judgy when it comes to ingredients and ingredient decks on product. And I just really couldn't find anything that I really loved as far as, the ingredient goes. And my philosophy always has been, it's like, use clean ingredients that are effective and leave out all the other BS. Like, we don't need all the other stuff in there. let's get it down to this like minimalist approach, and let's use what works, don't use what doesn't, and leave it at that. And so I couldn't find what I wanted. So basically I decided to make it. And that was like my personal pain points for coming into men's skincare. But then, you know, expanding on that a little bit, the other side of that is most men out there do not want to, they want affordable skincare. The market for men, anything that has really good targeted results, any sophisticated ingredient decks are usually at the very high end of the price range. There wasn't any middle ground that was accessible for people. And that, as a guy, we've always been taught like real men don't use skincare, and, like, why are you taking care of yourself like that? Like, that's just not like traditionally how men view taking care of their skin. Especially, I grew up in the South, so it wasn't a big thing down there. And that's part of kind of what we're trying to change. And so, we wanted something affordable. If you have a man in your life, that we're not cheap, that we will spend money on things that make our life simpler or help get a job done. And, we wanted to translate that over to skincare, basically. And so I got back in the lab, which basically at the time was me building a small R&D lab at my house. And I, just started formulating products again. And I kind of created this vision of like what would be the perfect product for myself. And I was started to research Southwest ingredients. I was very inspired by just the elements of the Southwest and the resilience that is seen throughout the desert here in this very extreme climate. And I found some really interesting ingredients, copper tripeptides, a lot of extracts from cactus, different types of cactus species and different parts of the cactus itself, as well as shrubs and other just plants and herbs that are local down here and native to the Southwest. And I knew then that I wanted to make it a very simple line with just a few products. If I didn't have a time for 9 steps in the morning, that I know most of my fellows out there didn't either. And at the end of the day, like a simple routine will make it much easier for men who are not used to skincare to build better skincare habits. And that was really like my driving motivation for this line.
I think that's interesting. So it's born out of pain points in both scenarios, and then it continues to evolve. And you've been doing this for a while, and you can see the evolution of your thought and the inspiration, and that seems to be the driving force for you. But what would you say has changed since that initial, you pivot your degree because you're entering into this new space. You pivot now again because out of necessity, you want something for yourself and you're not finding it in traditional stores and you're getting this inspiration. What do you think has been the biggest change or changes from the first to now?
Industry-wide, I want to say that just the type of companies out there, in the beginning, it seemed that the market was very much controlled by major brands that put out a lot of different products. And now I think you see the indie presence really on the rise. You see a lot more smaller name brands that fall in very specific niches. And also, there's been kind of this push of entrepreneurialism, in the world, especially with a lot of younger people. And there are a lot of different little companies popping up. Now, whether these companies are just reselling products they're buying or they're having private label or white label, I don't really know. I think a lot of them seem to share kind of similar ingredient decks and stuff like that. So I think a lot of that stems from people, wanting to create their own line, wanting to create their own brand. And I think that's like one of the biggest changes. Another thing is that just the education and knowledge around it I see is evolving. I think that there was a lot of like fear mongering and false information being spread around really quickly with the rise of social media and people trying to make content and, finding a very small research paper about something and running with it and blowing it up into this big thing that's, not really the intent or really the same. They generalize results from these research papers that are much more complex than what they're like putting out to the public. And so I'm very happy to say that I think that's kind of changing. And I think the consumers are becoming a little more knowledgeable and understanding, even the difference between natural and synthetic. And there was even myself, I was very big into natural things, but what I've learned is that while natural is very good in a lot of cases, it doesn't always equal best. there are many, many, many synthetic or natural identical ingredients that are very great. And they usually hold a better shelf life and are more stable and more consistent than their natural counterparts. And, that was a hard lesson learned for me because I feel that I just, it's very easy. You want to have this black and white, right? Like good and bad and natural versus synthetic. I think that now, we're kind of breaking down those walls and kind of seeing that really moderation and good formulations are really the key to what's good and bad. You shouldn't rely so much on a category of a product or an ingredient as much.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I love that you're saying that because I remember back, and Maggie, I've talked about this several times. You can find a paper on a lot of different things and summarize or just read the abstract and then run with it. In fact, I've had exchanges with different professionals who are like, nope, this is always the case. And the one thing that I tote a lot is like, science is a race without a finish. There's always going to be, you have to keep an open mind to some things, and you can't necessarily live in such an absolute black and white area of good and bad categories. I think there is definitely room for everybody at the party.
That's the skincare industry. I mean, between influencers and trends and the science, aesthetics never is black and white.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Very great way to put it is that science is a race with no end. And, we had to be okay with saying that we were wrong or saying that research was not complete. And I think a lot of times it's hard for us to say that, right? Because it doesn't have that confidence. It doesn't provide the confidence that most of the time that you need when you're trying to put something out to people. And I think that needs to be something that we need to shift a little bit and be okay with saying like, hey, this was what we thought was right at the time, but we've evolved and we've learned more. And now we're shifting this a tad bit, obviously you don't want to go just making willy-nilly decisions and then having no accountability at all. But, so it's very interesting to see that shift.
You were talking about the use of natural versus synthetic, Will, and that was a lesson you've learned. Would you say that is one of your I learned this the hard way lessons, or what would you say is something, whether it's formulating or in the lab, that has been, I learned this the hard way?
So I've never, I'm getting personal now. I've never actually been super organized, right? I never was a good note taker. I'm very in the moment with it. And I'm not good at documenting things, or I wasn't in the past. And that was one of the big lessons that I learned. Is anyone out there that wants to start formulations or any sort of sciences like that, document everything. Write stuff down. Make notes to yourself. It can be a silly note. It can be a serious note. Make notes, because at the end of the day, you may feel like you remember exactly what happened in that time, but a week later, and after you've made 6 more concept formulas, it's very easy for all that to blend together. And so documenting things allows you to go back and relive that process and really, really pinpoint and like notice, like, oh, I saw a color change here, or I may have saw a little bit of precipitation, or or even trying products. Like there was a slight bit of peeling when I put this on top of this other product. And a lot of times we trust our memory a little too much, or at least personally I do. And so documenting everything was a huge thing for me. Being organized. And if you're out there thinking about being a formulator, creating a line, whether it's for fun, whether it's for your personal use in your salon or your practice, go ahead and start creating as formal of a SOP or standing operating procedure or recipe, if you want to call it, but go ahead and start creating those in the beginning. Like it's never too early to start documenting your process like that, because that's what's really going to set you apart after you do it for a little while. And then if it grows into something and you're ever at the scale, you're gonna have to go back and do this anyway. So it was a very important lesson for me to learn too. Also, just being upfront with creating my SOPs and my recipes, documenting everything really well. Those are some of the hardest lessons that I learned. And that if anyone ever wants to dive into this, definitely go ahead and start off with a pen and pad before anything else. Just write everything down.
Definitely good advice.
It makes me think about my husband and I and the difference in the way we cook, because he is a recipe follower and he'll follow the recipe to a T. And I'll be like, well, how did it taste? He's like, I don't know. I just put this and that and this and that. And I'm like, this. And oh yeah, it needs a little bit of more of that, and it's never the same recipe twice. It always comes out good, but not necessarily do I know, I got to remember I put that in there last time, or what did I do it differently? So that is fantastic advice.
I've kind of been the same way with cooking as well. So now I've been trying to write stuff down even with that, because again, it was a very hard lesson. It is very beneficial at the end of the day.
Well, Will, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and definitely inspirational for sure.
Maggie and Ella, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for bringing me on. I was so excited when you mentioned the idea of this. This new line it's a really personal thing for me. I loved what I did at the other company, but this is much more personal. It's much more fun too. Even if you've ever traveled through the Southwest, I really tried to capture the beauty of the Southwest in these products with the colors and the textures. And if you've seen the serum, Ella, I know you've got to see some of the products. Just the blue hues, and that's from the actual copper tripeptides. There's nothing synthetic. I'm not trying to simulate these colors or textures. These are actually from the ingredients, the functional ingredients that we use in it. And so, the wash is very reminiscent of desert sand and stuff. And so it's just very fun line. And so thank you so much for allowing me to come on here and talk about this and my journey as a formulator and everything I've done at the beginning. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Will, if people are listening and they want to reach out to ask more questions, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Parker Williams Skincare. And then our website is parkerwilliamskincare.com. And the website is live now. We will be launching products very, very soon. And so, yeah, there's a lot of information up there already. If you're has a free moment, go check it out.
And if you weren't able to write that down, maybe you're in the car, maybe you're in the treatment room, we won't say anything. We're going to put that in the show notes, so be sure to look there. But listeners, we really want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on career shifts, men's skincare, passionate ingredients, inspiration, all of that? Reach out via Instagram, Facebook, or send us an email at getconnected@ascpskincare.com. We want to know all the details. In the meantime, thank you for listening to ASCP Esty Talk. For more information on this episode, or for ways to connect with Will, Maggie, or myself, or to learn more about ASCP, check out the show notes and stay tuned for the next episode of ASCP Esty Talk.
This podcast is sponsored by Lamprobe. Lamprobe is a popular aesthetic tool that enables skincare practitioners to rapidly treat a wide variety of common minor skin irregularities, or MSI. Red MSI treated by Lamprobe include dilated capillaries and cherry angiomas, yellow MSI, cholesterol deposits and sebaceous hyperplasia, and brown MSI treated include skin tags and more. Lamprobe MSI treatments are non-invasive and deliver immediate results. Lamprobe can empower your skin practice with these new and highly in-demand services. For more information, visit lamprobe.com. That's LAMPROBE.com. And follow Lamprobe on social media @Lamprobe.